That heavy crash at 3 in the afternoon, the one you have started to blame on your age. It is not your age, it is your blood sugar. And the cheapest thing I have ever found to steady it costs about $1. It is a bowl of beans. A woman in Sicily ate that bowl her whole life and reached 102. You have been told a lie for most of your life. The lie is that this is just what happens when you get old. The slump after lunch. The belt that keeps getting tighter no matter what you try. The fasting number your doctor keeps circling on the sheet. The pill he has started to mention, and the needle you can already feel waiting behind it. You have been told that all of that is simply the price of the years. It is not. In one small mountain town in Sicily, almost nobody paid it. Her name was Filippa Lentini. She lived in Montemaggiore, Belsito, a town of about 3,500 people, high in the Montemaggiore Mountains, 70 kilometers from Palermo. In October of 2014, that little town did something almost no place on earth can do. It held one celebration for 9 of its living centenarians on the same day. They called it a century and more. Filippa, at 102, was the oldest of the 9. Rosario Gullo was there at 101. Rosina Siragusa, also 101. Paolina Catalano and Agata Gerasi, both 100. 9 people passed a century in a town smaller than a lot of American high schools. Italian national television drove all the way up the mountain to film it, and everyone asked the same thing you are asking right now. What is the secret? The answer the town gave was almost insulting in how plain it was. Clean mountain air, spring water straight off the rock, and simple, genuine, homegrown food eaten the same way for a whole lifetime. So grab a pen, because in the next few minutes I am going to give you 4 things. The exact bowl she and her neighbors ate, the exact way it is cooked, the soak, the simmer, and the one mistake that ruins the whole pot, the portion and the timing. And the strangest of the 4, the single thing a bowl of beans does to your next meal hours later that almost no other food on earth can do. That last one is the part that actually keeps the whole day flat. Stay with me all the way to it, because it is the piece almost nobody knows. Here is the bowl. In those same Montemaggiore Mountains, in a town called Polizzi Generosa, families have grown one particular bean in their garden plots for 200 years. Slow food protects it now as a kind of treasure. They call it the fagiolo bada. Bada means ball in the old dialect, because the bean is small and round, like a little marble. There's a pale one, a dark one, and a speckled one. They nicknamed the little monk. It is dried in the fall and eaten all year long from tiny family plots, the same soil, one generation handing it to the next. That is the bean. But here is what almost nobody tells you, and it is exactly why I need you to keep watching. It was never only that she ate beans. It was when she ate them. And it was that one quiet thing beans do to the meal that comes after. Because a bowl of beans does not just flatten its own curve. It reaches forward in time and flattens your next meal too. Hold on to that. I am going to prove it to you before the end. If a whole village of 100-year-olds is the kind of thing you want more of, this channel does exactly that every week. Now, back to the beans. Do something for me first. Pause this video. Get up, walk to your kitchen, and open the cupboard where the dry goods live. I want you to find 1 bag of dried beans, any kind at all. Chickpeas, lentils, cannellini, pinto, black beans shoved somewhere in the back. Yes or no? Do you have one? Because if the answer is no, then that 1 bag is the only shopping you do this entire week. $1, 1 bag. That is the whole cost of everything I am about to teach you. Here is how you cook it, and I want you to actually do this, not just nod along at it. 1 cup of dried beans. The bada, if you can find it, any dried bean if you cannot. Tonight, before bed, pour them into a bowl. Cover them with water by 2 fingers above the beans. Lay a plate on top. Walk away to bed. That is the entire first step. 8 hours in the water, and by morning they wake up soft and swollen and ready. In the morning, drain them. Rinse them once. Into a heavy pot they go. Cover them with fresh water, 2 inches over the top. Now 3 tablespoons of good olive oil, straight into the pot. 1 clove of garlic, crushed with the flat of your knife. And here is the maddening touch. A handful of wild fennel, or any soft green you happen to have, thrown in whole. Bring it up to a boil 1 time. Then drop the flame to the lowest. Your stove will hold. Put the lid on. Walk away again. An hour and a half, maybe 2, and those small beans turn to silk. Now the one mistake, and it is the mistake that makes people swear up and down, they cannot cook beans. Do not salt them at the start. Do not do it. Salt at the very end. Salt too early, and the skins stay tough, the insides stay chalky, and the beans never soften no matter how long you cook them, so you wait. Salt at the end, a squeeze of lemon if you like it bright, and a last thread of green oil poured over the top at the table. Write that down. Salt goes in at the end. That single rule is the whole difference between a bowl you love and a pot you throw out. The portion is not a mountain of food. 3/4 of a cup to 1 cup cooked, about the size of your own cupped hand. You do not need any more than that. And now the timing, which is the part most people get exactly backwards. Filippa did not eat this as a heavy supper late at night. In the Madoni, the bean bowl belonged to the middle of the day, the main meal, when the sun was high and the work stopped for a while. Beans at midday. Hold that word, midday, because in a few minutes you are going to understand why it keeps working long after the bowl is sitting in the sink. Let me stop and be straight with you, because you deserve that a great deal more than you deserve a sales pitch. This is not a cure. A bowl of beans will not reverse diabetes, and I am never going to tell you it will. If you take medication for your blood sugar, you keep taking it. You do not stop. You do not change a dose, not without the person who prescribed it sitting right there in front of you. What beans do is gentler than a cure, and far more honest than a promise. They flatten the curve. They blunt the spike. That is all it is, and that is a great deal. And it is something we see across whole populations who eat this way for a lifetime. Not a prescription written for your exact body. So talk to your doctor. And then add the bowl. That honesty is the whole reason this little channel exists. And it is the reason a handful of people asked me to gather all of it into one place. The same beans, the same rhythm, the same plain table that Filippa Lentini, Rosario Gullo, and Rosina Siragusa actually lived by. The whole Madoni way of eating, written down as one simple 90-day plan. It is called the Mediterranean Way 90-Day Protocol. It is sitting just below this video, if you ever want it, and there is a small code on the screen for those of you watching on your television. That is the only time I will mention it, because the bowl of beans matters far more than any book ever could. Now, back to Filippa's table. I want you to sit with that celebration for one more second, because the number is the whole point. Not one person passed 100. 9. All in the same tiny town, at the same time, at the same long table. When a doctor sees one healthy old woman, he calls it good genes and moves on. He cannot say that about 9 neighbors at once. 9 is not a lucky roll of the dice. 9 is a pattern. And when the reporters went looking for what those 9 had in common, it was not a supplement, and it was not a clinic. It was the plate. The same beans, the same greens, the same oil, the same bread on 9 kitchen tables for 100 years each. That is the quiet thing I need you to feel. This was never about one remarkable woman. It was about one remarkable way of eating, and it is sitting right there in front of you, buyable tonight. Here is what I want you to really see now. 9 people passed 100, in a town of 3,500. And down here, we do the exact opposite without even noticing it. A modern American day is a staircase of spikes. The cereal at breakfast, a small cliff. The sandwich at noon, another. The cracker at 3, the sweet coffee, the pasta at night, the cookie after. Each one is a little climb and a hard fall, all day long, every day, for decades on end. Your body is not broken. It is worn out from climbing. Filippa's plate was not a staircase. It was one long, low, gentle hill with a soft landing at the bottom. Same human body, same pancreas. Completely different day. And let me put your own body back in the room for a moment, because this is about you, not a village in Sicily. You know the checkup, the finger prick, the number that has crept up 1/10 of a point at a time, year after year, while you did nothing wrong you could name. First, they called it a little high. Then they called it pre-diabetes. Then the pill got mentioned, gently, the way they mention things they expect to become permanent. And behind the pill, in the back of your mind, sits the needle, and the stories you have heard about what unmanaged blood sugar does to eyes and feet and nerves over 20 years. That fear is real, and I am not going to wave it away. But here is the flip side of it. The plate is the one lever in all of that you actually hold in your own 2 hands, 3 times a day. Filippa held it for 102 years. You can pick it up this afternoon. And I want to say one hard thing plainly, because someone needs to. Diabetes is not a moral failing, and it is not simply your age catching up with you. For most people, it is decades of spikes. The body finally could not keep smoothing over. Which means the lever that made it can also help unmake some of it, one meal at a time. Not overnight, not by magic, but the same fork that dug the hole can start filling it back in. That is not false hope. That is just how a body works when you finally stop fighting it 3 times a day. So why does a bean do this when a slice of bread does not? It is the way the bean is built. The starch inside a bean is locked away behind thick walls of fiber, sealed into tiny cells that your gut has to pry open slowly, one at a time. So the sugar does not come flooding in all at once. It seeps in. And the soluble fiber turns to a soft gel down in your gut, a fine mesh that the sugar has to filter through, one thread at a time. Slow in means slow up, a gentle hill instead of a cliff edge. That is the very bottom of what they call the glycemic index, and beans sit about as low on it as any real food you can put on a plate. Before we go on, recall your last lunch, just the last one you ate. Was it a sandwich? A bowl of soup from a can? Something on white bread? Something you ate standing up? No judgment. I only want you to hold it in your mind next to a bowl of warm beans and greens, and ask yourself which one leaves you reaching for the couch an hour later. You already know the answer. Your body has been telling you for years. Now, you are probably thinking one of 2 things right about now. Either beans give you gas, or beans are a starch, and starch is the exact thing that spikes you. Hold both of those. The gas is real, and it fades. Start with half a cup, chew it well, and your gut learns the bean inside a week or 2. And the starch. The starch is the beautiful part. Not all starch behaves the same way. When you cook a bean and then let it cool, some of that starch changes into what they call resistant starch. It resists you. Your body cannot rush it. It slides all the way down to the bottom of your gut and feeds the quiet, helpful little bugs that live down there, slow and steady, like logs banked on a low fire instead of paper thrown on a flame. This is exactly why the old kitchens cooked one big pot and let it sit overnight in the cool larder. A day-old bean is an even quieter bean, so make extra. Keep it in the fridge. The leftovers might be the best thing you eat all week. I will admit something to you. For years I thought the whole trick with beans was just the fiber. Slow fiber, slower sugar, end of story. It is not only the fiber, it is that, and the resistant starch, and the timing, all working together at once. And the timing is the piece I want to hand you now. But first, understand where Filippa's beans came from, because it changes how you see the whole thing. Up in those mountains, the gardens are small terraces cut into the slope, kept in the family for generations. In spring, the beans go in the ground. Through summer they climb, and the pods fatten and dry right on the vine. In the fall, whole families sit and shell them by hand, thumbs stained, a bowl between the knees. Then they dry them on racks and pour them into sacks and jars, and that jar of dried beans is the pantry through the entire winter. No refrigeration, no store. No cost past the seed you saved from last year. This was the protein of people who had very little money, and it turns out the protein of the poor was the protein of the long-lived all along. That is not a sad story. That is the best joke in all of nutrition. So decide right now, out loud if you have to. Are you doing this Sunday or next Sunday? Not someday, not soon. A Sunday. Pick one. Tell me which one in the comments. Because the people who say it out loud are the people who actually do it. And while you are deciding, do not let anyone talk you into spending more than $1. The bata bean is a lovely little thing, an heirloom, and if you hunt down a bag of it online, it will not be cheap. You do not need it. Hear me clearly on this. The power is not in the fancy brand. It is in the legume itself. A 99-cent bag of dried cannellini off the bottom shelf, a bag of borlotti, plain brown lentils, ordinary chickpeas. Every single one of them gives you the same low, slow curve and the same reach into your next meal. The rare bean is the story. Any bean is the medicine. Let me give you one real story, because you should hear that someone just like you has already walked this. A woman wrote to me last winter. 67, retired out near Cleveland. She started on a Sunday in March. 1 pot of beans, once a week to begin with, then twice, always with her midday meal. By the 3rd week, she told me, that 3 o'clock crash had gone soft. She was not falling toward the couch anymore. By early summer, the belt had slid 1 notch looser, and she was sleeping the whole night through for the first time in years. Her doctor saw her fasting number settle, not disappear, and asked her what on earth she had changed. She had changed one thing. She added the bowl. She never touched a single thing her doctor had her on. That is the honest shape of it. Small, steady, real, no miracle. Just a bowl and a little patience. Now the part I told you to wait for. The reason midday matters so much, and I will be honest with you. The first time I understood this, I read it twice because it sounded almost too good to be true. Here it is. When you eat a bowl of beans at lunch, that bowl is not finished working when the bowl is empty. Those slow fibers and that resistant starch are still down in your gut hours later, still quietly at work. And when you sit down to dinner, a completely different meal, maybe even a meal that would normally spike you. The spike is smaller. Smaller because of the beans you ate back at noon. They call it the second meal effect. A bowl of beans reaches forward in time and lays a calming hand on the meal that has not even happened yet. Almost no other food on earth does that. And here is the why underneath it. Those helpful bugs in your gut, fed slowly by the bean, do not go quiet after lunch. They keep sending out steady, low signals for hours, and those signals tell your body to handle the next load of sugar more gently. So the beans at noon are not just feeding you. They are rehearsing your body for dinner. That is why the midday timing is not a small detail. It is the whole game. Eat the beans early in the day, and 1 bowl blankets both your afternoon and your evening. Eat them late at night, and you waste half the gift on your sleep. This is how a woman ate the cheapest food in Sicily and kept her blood sugar flat, not for 1 hour, but across the whole day. 1 bowl at midday bought her a calmer afternoon and a calmer evening, out of the very same single dollar. So here is how you actually use that this week. Make the pot once, Then eat from it at midday, 3 or 4 days running. Monday's lunch, Tuesday's lunch, Wednesday's lunch, all from the same jar, warmed in a small pan with a splash of its own broth. Each of those middays quietly steadies the dinner that follows it. You are not cooking every day. You are cooking once and collecting the reward 4 times. That is the whole rhythm the Madoni kitchen ran on, and it is the reason this fits a real life, even a tired one, even a busy one, one pot. 4 calm afternoons, 4 calmer nights. Now I owe you the truth about the edges of this. The scientists are still arguing about exactly how strong the effect is and exactly how many hours it lasts, person to person. I would far rather say that plainly than hand you a tidy number that might not fit your body. And I will not pretend the bean did all the work by itself either. Filippa also walked those mountains. She drank that spring water. She ate greens and oil and very little sugar for 100 years. It is never one thing. But of all of it, the bean is the one piece you can buy on a Tuesday and start tonight. So that is where we start. Now add up what all of this actually costs you. A bag of dried beans, a little olive oil, a clove of garlic, a green from the yard, or the bottom of the crisper drawer, $1 a bowl if that. Do the math against the other side. A year of eating this way costs you less than 1 month of most blood sugar supplements on the shelf. And here is the thing that ought to make you just a little bit angry. There is an entire industry built to sell you the opposite of $1 bowl of beans. Rows of capsules, powders in big tubs, pills that cost more in a single month than a whole year of beans. And nearly all of it is aimed straight at people your age, all of it whispering the same thing, that your body is a broken machine and that you have to keep buying it back 1 bottle at a time. Filippa did not buy any of it. She grew her beans in a patch of Madoni dirt, dried them in the autumn sun, and ate them right through the winter, the same way the families down in Polizzi Generosa have done, quietly, for 200 years. A bowl of beans is never going to trend on the internet. It is too cheap for anyone to sell. And that, exactly that, is why it is so easy for you to copy. The cheapest shelf in your grocery store is also the healthiest one, and no one profits from telling you so. Do one more thing for me right now. Notice your energy this very second. Just notice it, whatever it is. Now hold that against 3 o'clock this afternoon, that low, gray, foggy hour you know so well. That is your before. That is your baseline. 3 weeks of the midday bowl, and I want you to check again at that same hour and judge for yourself. Not for me, for you. And when you serve it, finish it the way the Madoni kitchen finishes it. A last thread of green olive oil, poured cold over the hot beans right at the table, a little lemon, and yes, a crust of good bread to drag through it if you want one. Bread. And no, it will not undo the whole thing, because the beans are already running the show underneath it. This is not punishment food. It is one of the best, warmest, most satisfying bowls you will ever put in front of yourself. That is the secret hiding in plain sight up in those mountains. The food that keeps you alive is not grim. It is delicious, and it is cheap, and it has been sitting on the bottom shelf of your grocery store the whole time. And do not eat the beans all alone and call that lunch. Build the bowl the way they did up in the mountains. The beans go down first, then the greens you cooked right in the pot, spooned over the top. A ripe tomato, if you have one, torn up with your hands. A crust of bread on the side to catch what is left in the bowl. That is a full, warm, real meal, and it costs less than the sad sandwich you would have grabbed instead. You are not on a diet. You are learning to eat like the people who somehow forgot how to get sick. And if a 4-hour pod is not your life, I hear you, so here are the ways around it. No time to stand over a stove? A pressure cooker does the same beans in about 45 minutes. No overnight soak required. No dried beans in the house tonight? A can of plain beans, drained and rinsed well, will do in a pinch. Just skip the added salt and warm them in that same olive oil and garlic. And if the 4 hours are the problem, cook one big pot on a Sunday and freeze it in portions. 3 minutes in a small pot and Tuesday's lunch is done. The point was never the ceremony. The point is the bean in the bowl at midday. Let me set it all out one more time, clean and simple, so you can take a picture of this screen and keep it. First, the bean. Any dried bean at all. Bada, if you ever find it. 99-cent cannellini, if you never do. Second, the bowl. 1 cup soaked overnight, simmered low with olive oil and a green, salted only at the very end. Third, the portion and the timing. 3/4 of a cup to a cup, cooked, eaten with your midday meal. And fourth, the one that carries the whole day. Eat the beans earlier, at lunch, and that flatter curve rides all the way through into your dinner, hours later, on its own. That is the entire thing. 4 lines, about $1. And 102 years of a real woman's life as the proof. Think about where this came from, one last time. A low flame in a stone kitchen up in the Madoni. A heavy pot of small round beans going soft and silky. Wild fennel on the counter, hard mountain light in the window, cold spring water in the glass, and a woman of 102 lifting the lid to check the pot. One of 9, in a town of 3,500, who simply never got the disease the rest of us have been taught to expect. You do not live up there, but the bowl travels anywhere. So here is the next 5 minutes of your life. When this video ends, you get up and you walk to your kitchen. You find a bag of dried beans, or you write the words, dried beans on the list, stuck to your fridge. And tonight, before you sleep, you put 1 cup of them in a bowl, cover them with water, lay a plate on top, and walk away. That is the entire start. If this is the kind of thing you want more of, real people, real food, and not a single pill. Subscribe to the Mediterranean Way, and I will meet you back here at the next pot. Tonight, beans, water, a plate on top. That is the start.